A warm welcome to SharePoint CSOM crude applications in real time. Hi, this is me, Thangu. I'm here to share some uses of SharePoint and PowerShell CSOM or client-side scripting to help with crude in SharePoint. Some of the common CRUD operations as a end user is to modify sites, create sites, or delete sites, or create list libraries, add files to libraries, add users, add pages. The same things can be done with PowerShell CSOM. And personally, I feel that CSOM is extremely powerful. If you are a coder in SharePoint for a long time, you might be used to the server-side object model, and CSOM is similar to that but does not have access to all the objects. So some of the common operations using client-side objects model for PowerShell is to break the role inheritance on multiple sites. So these are all real world requests which I have shared the code for many users. They are applied in real world either in on-premise or online. Some of the other code is to upload files from a folder to a document library, or you have tons and tons of files in one folder and you don't want to upload that manually. Obviously, in that case, of course we have drag and drop, but if you have files from different folders and you want all the files in an excel sheet and you want to read those files and upload that to SharePoint with a single click, you can just write the code, and with a single run button it can be done remotely. And some of the other applications was to create views remotely. I can create views. Of course there are a lot of applications, and we can create site pages or web part pages. There's just tons and tons of applications using code. It's just innumerable based on your request, or you can sit and think and what you want to do and you can actually do that. There's a lot of objects in SharePoint, starting from list, library. You have social code, and you have records or even advanced ECM code. There is just so much options. If you want to create content types using code, you can do that. So everything can be done using code. All you need is a PowerShell. I'm assuming you might be an administrator wanting to write a little code. You don't need to break your head learning JavaScript or TypeScript and go ahead to SPFX immediately. You can start with simple lines of coding. All you need to do is to just have PowerShell, just download the SharePoint online components, and just you need, and as an administrator, you'll have the user ID and password, and with simple loops you can just automate um, many clicks to a single click. It's very simple. So some of the sample projects which I am going to discuss about are, so I recently I've been using PowerShell to just generate a modern page with the CSOM itself coming from Microsoft. The code is coming from Microsoft, and suppose you have a request to get the images from various picture libraries. Probably you can use the content search for query web part, but let's just assume, let's try to use the code and for a faster delivery, and I want to read all the images, or if you want, you can read different list items and just, or if you want to change the look and feel, you have a different CSS or apply a different background, or you want to display it in a different way, and it's not for dynamic data, it's just a one-time data which will last for a long time. So in that cases, I can just write a simple code. I'm just combining pictures. For example, there are garden pictures from various libraries, picture libraries. I'm just taking all the garden pictures, the URLs, and I'm just generating the HTML content and generating the code. So they are in a modern page. It's possible with PowerShell. Another application is to do some action on all subsites in a site. Suppose you want to break the inheritance of all subsites. We can do that with a recursive loop in PowerShell itself. So I'm just showcasing break rule inheritance, which was done in real time. Again, over here, the applications are numerous. So you can have various requirements, be that updating the description or changing the color of all the subsites to some standard color. So rather than going to each subsite and changing, or you want to create a particular list in all subsites, or if you want to add a column, you can add a side column, or if you want to do some action on all subsites or update the list column on all subsites or update some value in all subsites, you can do that with the code itself. And coming to the server side level, so there are some government companies in US where I had some requirement to generate the site usage report. So in that case, PowerShell is the only option. And long ago, I have been using C# console applications to find the average colleagues. That was one minor requirement I got. So coming to the history, it's just no matter how SharePoint is progressing, the object model is going to remain the same. So probably long back, we had to create a list item using SP list. Now, as the client-side model came, it's just using list creation information, just list or site or web. And so that is not going to change probably for a long time to come. So you might have to just remember the objects like site, web, list. And if you want to create a new item, you have to use creation information like view creation information and then update the properties. So any object definitely has a property like title and GUID. So based on the needs, you can do the requirement. So many times, or as a developer, it is mostly about updating the data, moving the data from one source to another, or you might have to change the view and do something on the data in a SharePoint list. So long back in MOS 2007 or even WSS3, so I was a part of a big team where we had to generate review web part, RSS viewer web part for a very nice client called 3M. And one of my role was to automate the process of moving the data from SharePoint to SQL using Windows services. So it was a time scheduler and all. So then in SharePoint, and then we have the timer job in SharePoint 2010. So in SharePoint 2010, I was a part of team. I had to do the code review for all the migrated web paths. So please note that as a coder, you might have done something in MOS 2007. So Microsoft usually, whatever custom developers do, it becomes a common web part for the next version. So those web paths were already available, and so slowly in 2013, we had the Sandbox application, and Napa came and SharePoint hosted app came. And so in 2016, right now, we have the SharePoint add-in SPFX. And I'm just focusing on the PowerShell CSOM app from code because all of them, no matter, all of them are related to various tools, that's all. But the code behind is going to almost remain the same. So in this particular session, I'm just talking about PowerShell CSOM app from code, where you just think of the logic, write the code, click it, and it's done. It's a one-time activity. And if you want to do some action on various subsites, then you can definitely use PowerShell. It's extremely powerful, especially for administrators and even developers. And the developers, what I would suggest is you can do the code starting from HTML, CSS. So get the requirement done, especially most of the time the logic is with HTML, CSS and the view, how you want it to look. Then you think of the logic which we can do in PowerShell, and and as a developer, later you can happily integrate that to SharePoint hosted add-in or provider hosted add-in or just in PowerShell or using PowerShell convert HTML or SPFX. So it's whatever tools come in SPFX or SharePoint hosted or provider hosted, you get the logic, you have the code behind. So as a developer, you decide how it will look like your app or what is the logic going to be, and based on your comfort level, you can choose the technology. So please take the precautions, think long term. So do a code review on your own code and never expect any external code reviewer and use updated methods. So one problem during migration is some codes object model, it does get migrated and some methods are deprecated. So check that deprecated methods are not there. And whenever you write the code, make sure there is a try catch and the memory leaks are caught. So the page should not hang with infinite loops. So and there should, and whatever functionality you fulfill, make sure it's already not there. Suppose I'm trying to do a slideshow web part. There's no point doing that now because Microsoft has already done a nice slideshow web part. So whatever you have, Microsoft already has, do a research on the web parts and then only start doing the app. There's no need to do anything which is already done. So let's just discuss some of the sample applications. So this is one application from real world where the request was to break the role inheritance for all the subsites. And so whatever logic using client-side object model, and you do the code. So in this particular example, I'm just doing $web.break role inheritance, and I'm calling it recursively break role subwebs for all the subsites. So you might have to do the logic accordingly, maybe to change the CSS or maybe to change the title or description based on your logic. So you can, if you are tired of doing the same click again and again and again, you can just automate that using the PowerShell scripting. And this particular screen you're seeing is a PowerShell CSOM to get all garden images and show in a modern page. Imagine you don't have to really update the content, and the content is not dynamic. It's going to be static for a long time. You just have some content which is not going to change at all. In that case, this type of technique might be good, and you don't have a web part which can display as per your logic. So just for demo purpose, I'm just showcasing a simple example where I'm trying to get all the images from two libraries. Imagine, I suppose I've added garden images in two picture libraries, and I want to get all the pictures uh, from all the garden picture libraries. So I'm just reading all the images from the two different lists, and then I'm generating the HTML content I want. In the HTML content, I've already generated that, and using the page item, that is we have Microsoft, there is a code from Microsoft which is used to make a modern page. So this is the code where we have to give the content type, title, and so this code will not change. And once this is done, so I can see the modern page and I can give the data I need. So mostly it's going to be static. This is for static application, but this is extremely powerful. It is applicable for modern page also. Suppose you don't want to do a web part which is applicable for all the sites, just one site you want to do something, and it's a secret application, and this approach can be useful. So as a summary, we have seen some applications for client-side object model. It's extremely powerful. There are lots of applications. There are lots and lots of applications. I've been updating on LinkedIn through comics for each object like site, list, library, file, how to add a file. So there's a lot of applications. And so based on your needs, you can use it extensively either for each subsite or for all the subsites, or for creating modern page with your HTML content based on your needs. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. Bye bye.